Hey guys, Raiden here, and welcome to a very interesting video that one of you guys kind of gave me the idea to do. So, my channel's been around for 2-3 years now. It's actually been around for a longer time than that, but I've only been seriously, quote-unquote, doing YouTube for like 2 years. When I mean seriously, I just mean posting at a semi-regular interval. So, I just kind of wanted to go back and take a look through every series that I've ever done, and I want to give you guys my thoughts on them, because sometimes I feel like I need to pull back the curtain and just tell you guys what I thought of the series I did in post, and tell you guys about the things that I learned from them, about being a YouTuber, and learn from them just about the game or the series itself. We're actually looking at the first series I ever did with anyone, which is I did with two of my friends, and we were really young back then. We played XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Like, this is a very old series filled with lots of, like, immature high school level banter, with a bunch of dumb jokes I don't think I could even laugh at now. But I very fondly remember these 5 episodes. It did have a little joke to it in the end, which we had a soldier called Master Chief that we misspelled, like, horribly. It was like Mr. Chef. And I had my friend playing who has hardly ever played XCOM before, and he didn't know how Overwatch works, and he just ran out with Mr. Chef and got shot on like the 4th episode, and we lost it. I still love that little moment. So here is my unfinished Silent Hill 3 Let's Play I did with a close friend of mine. It's so close to being finished. One day, I'm just gonna sit him down and we're gonna record like the last 5 episodes or something. It's gonna be like someday in the future, we're just gonna sit down and finish it with better audio, better video, and just generally better everything. It'll be like nothing ever happened. But I really do love Silent Hill 3. It's my favorite game in the Silent Hill series. I will admit it's not as much of a masterpiece as Silent Hill 2 was. But hell, I still really love this game. I love everything it tries to do. And it is a little weird because it goes back to the occult stuff. But we had a lot of fun with this game, although the audio quality was awful. Once again, we were still in high school and the commentary was not very mature. And I know I say mature with quotation marks around it. Well, the reason I say that is just because it's a bit... But I really did love this game. I enjoyed it quite a bit, especially since a lot of the time with horror games, especially survival horror, I make it through on my own, but I have to progress so slowly because I get so immersed in the game and it keeps me from moving forward. But when I have someone there with me, it helps out a lot. I don't particularly like horror. Once again, you guys have probably heard this spiel a billion times. I love survival horror. I love how dark it is and amazing, and it always makes me kind of consider playing like another Silent Hill game in the future or something. The problem is I've already played most of them, and anyone that would come out past this point would probably be way too horrifying for me to even attempt. Because it's a completely different era of games, so... But yeah, I learned at least I can play survival horror games, depending on which one. Not Resident Evil 1. Fairly okay. Okay, so this was my first series I did on my own. Actually, there was one I started before this, which was Strider, but a lot of that got taken down for copyright issues, so I'm not going to count that, because I barely really went into it. But this is the first full series I did, and it was The Witcher 1. Man, I really love The Witcher series. It's like my first, second, or third favorite book series ever, and I just love the universe. And I had a lot of fun with this LP, but this is, once again, a time where I wasn't worried about what people liked and what people were watching. Of course, I wanted people to watch, and I didn't really have any. I went through all 50-something episodes, no, 40-something episodes of this LP without a single, like, view. I think at most, I was getting, like, 3 to 5 views per video, and those were mostly bots and sub for subs. And the audio quality I had back then was awful, too. I was using, like, a Samsung Meteor microphone, and it was, ugh. Even listening back on it, it was awful. And I think halfway through the series is when I got the mic that I'm currently using, which I didn't know how to fine-tune back then, so it still sounded pretty bad. But overall, I really enjoyed The Witcher 1. It's kind of a janky game, as people like to say Eurojank. but it really captures the Witcher universe very well. And the combat mechanics are very interesting. And I will always remember this fondly, because this was the first LP I ever just took the time to jump into and enjoy without having to worry about how many people were watching or anything like that, as that did become like a later worry as I kept doing this. Oh yeah, and I also did a City Skyline Let's Play for about 3 episodes. My computer physically could not handle the turmoil it was being put under. A lot of this was because I had a ridiculously high bitrate, and I didn't understand how bitrate worked. I'm just like, oh, the higher the better! And then I just put the bitrate up to like 10,000. My computer was practically steaming, and I think that might have been why my computer was on fire at one point, but that's a different story. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but during The Witcher 1, my graphics card caught on fire mid-recording. It was beautiful, although I didn't finish The Witcher 1, I don't think, now that I think about it. Anyways, see, Skylines, I don't really have much to say about this. I played it for like 3 episodes, it now has 200 views somehow, but, yeah, I don't remember it very fondly. I also did a quick look at Pillars of Eternity, which I now have finished both Pillars 1 and 2, and both those games are marvelous. But back in the day when I was playing this, it was so hard to attract people to this sort of thing, because this game had just come out. It's like 2015. And it's so hard to get people to sit through and watch you read lines and lines and lines of dialogue unless you attract the correct audience. In which case, I think I have that correct audience now, because you guys watch me play like Fire Emblem and Danganronpa, where that's practically all I'm doing is reading dialogue and having fun with the characters, but the thing is, back then, I didn't really do that. Back at this time... Oh, there's my monk. I love playing the monk in this game. I usually play it almost in, like, everything I play, because I love punching things, hence Eisen. But back in this time, I was really timid, and also I was really trying to emulate another YouTuber, and that's one of my #1 tips for YouTube, is don't try to emulate someone, just be yourself, which is something I've slowly had to learn over the course of my YouTube adventures. And the reason I say that is because I was trying to emulate people like Christopher Odd really, really hard, who is a very, like, nice, chill, lore-based Let's Player, who's gotten really popular recently. Like, he deserves everything he has. But I was trying to be more him than me, and while I still do love reading into lore and all that, I don't think the more calm and just not making fun of anything is like me. I have to make fun of things. I'm sorry. It's just me. This isn't a series, but this was my first top whatever video I've ever done. I don't think I've done that many. I think I've done like 3 maybe. But it was on Dragon Age, and like my favorite bosses in all Dragon Age. This video has 1,000 views now, huh? But I've always been a huge Dragon Age fan. I loved Origins so much, although I only played it once. I've been thinking about eventually maybe going back and playing it through again. I liked Dragon Age 2 decently well, and then I loathed Inquisition so much that I barely really got into it, so... At least I found through this that doing top 5s was sort of kind of fun, but not a thing I'd like to do, like, every month. So, here is the first LP I ever actually finished. And that's Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, which this was also in 2015. So those of you guys who watched that while it was coming out, I was much worse at Devil May Cry then too. I didn't understand a lot of mechanics that I do know of now. And I know I'm saying that, and it's like, oh, look there, I got a B rank, but that's because I was playing as Virgil, and he was kind of a new character. Now I'm so much better at DMC4, mainly just through the ridiculous amount of hours I put into it since then. Very hyped for DMC5. But, yeah, I really love this LP, just because it was me playing a game I loved, and that I knew I'd love, which is the first time I've ever done that, and something I was truly interested in. I really tried to stick to mainly US and European titles, because I was scared that it just wasn't something YouTube wanted. Like, I was scared if I played, like, an RPG or JRPG or something like that, that wasn't something hyper-popular, like, Super, like, Mario Brothers RPG. I know it's a weird one to bring up, but I know that one's pretty popular on YouTube, that it wouldn't be successful, and I think this was the first time I saw that, hey, both an action game and a Japanese game of any kind can be really successful. I kind of learned that from this. And also to start playing things I really loved rather than things that other people were playing that they really loved. Oh, and then I did Child of Light. Oh boy, this game. This is probably my second least favorite LP I've ever done. Child of Light's art style and soundtrack was so good. It's this little light and simple RPG that does have quite the difficulty curve at times, but the gameplay was just so arduous and boring, and in the end, I really found the story to be kind of dull too. It was visually beautiful. I loved it. It had so much style. The soundtrack is one of the most calming things ever. I could listen to it all day long, but the game was one of the most boring things I have ever played, and I could not recommend it to people, sadly. Otherwise, this was the first, like, true RPG I ever played on the channel. So, I don't think I even finished it. Yeah, up to this point, I didn't finish Witcher 1, I didn't finish City Skylines, I didn't finish anything but Devil May Cry. And I got to the very end on this one. And Ubisoft, for those of you who have played Ubisoft games, implemented Uplay, and I lost basically my whole account. Because Uplay was a horrible service back then with no security. So, I started playing Mass Effect 1 after that. I figured I should go to something a bit more popular, and something I haven't played yet. Because at this time I had played Mass Effect 2, not Mass Effect 3, and I hadn't played Mass Effect 1. I still haven't played Mass Effect 3, but I really did love 2. And I started a playthrough of this game on hardcore, blind, and I was really enjoying it, I had to be honest. It's just the lack of... Once again, you have to get used to the lack of viewer interaction. Because I didn't have one watching. I didn't have anyone kind of pushing me forward. Oh god, I made like the ugliest character model possible. I forgot how good Mass Effect 1 looked. Holy shit, I thought this game looked horrendous. This game actually doesn't look half bad. But yeah, this is one of those times where I played through a good chunk of it, but I just kept playing and playing and playing, and no one was really there to watch. And for some reason on this series specifically, that really bummed me out. This was the closest time I was to quitting, I think, ever. Just because, like, I started another series and it just didn't go well. But yeah, Mass Effect was the first shooter I played on the channel, and I think about it, it's an RPG shooter, and I was having a lot of trouble with it. I'm not the greatest at shooters in the world. I don't really like them for the most part, unless they have, like, a good story behind them, or there's something ridiculous like Doom. But I can't stand to open a Call of Duty game anymore. I can hardly manage to play Destiny just because, like, everything there is so abysmally the same. And, I did enjoy Borderlands, though, because of its quirky humor. And, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this series. It was Mass Effect. It did its job. Oh, so here's a series I did enjoy quite a bit. So here is The Witcher 2. Enhanced Edition. So I was really loving this game. I played through it all the way to the end, and I loved every single second of it. But, and this is the intro video that I posted separately, not the actual video in which I started playing. Oh boy. And it was interesting, because this was the first sequel I had ever played to anything else. And the Witcher universe is something I know better than any other type of lore ever. Like, I know Witcher lore like the back of my hand. I've read so many of the books so many times. I bought the encyclopedias. I own accessories. I own a Nilfgaardian shirt. Like, I am a huge Witcher fanboy, and I don't think that'll ever change. Aside from the author, who is kind of an asshole. But, I kind of have to separate the work from the guy on that. But anyways, CD Projekt Red made Witcher 2, which was a phenomenal game. Like, I didn't think it was going to get any better than this game. And lo and behold, Witcher 3 came out, and it was even better. But this game was so good, the atmosphere was really nice. And it was the first Let's Play in which I felt like I really was invested in a story of some kind. It was the first series in which I wanted to know what happened at the end, more than I was worried about how many people were watching, or if anyone was watching at all. I was so interested in getting to the end of The Witcher 2 that it didn't matter. And that's what makes this one so very special to me, is because I love the game so much, nothing else mattered. Which isn't something I can say for a lot of games, because some games in the middle start to get really, really bad. But my interest never waned in this series. Like, I tried to do every single side quest, and although the game towards the end kind of pushes itself out the window, and it's like, hey, come on, hurry up, we gotta get to the end. I still really enjoyed it regardless. Here's a weird series I did. Here's a really weird series I did. So, this was the first time I ever played a visual novel on the channel, ever. And it was Ace Attorney. The first Ace Attorney game. And I didn't know anyone else had played these games on the internet before. I didn't realize how late I was to this train. I didn't realize how many people had already done it. Regardless, this video still has a lot of views. But I thought I was like the first guy on the scene to play an Ace Attorney game, and boy was I wrong. It had a huge following by now. The first 3 games and more were out at this time, I think. Yeah, because 2016, most of the games were already out, and I think they were just releasing the Dual Destinies. And this was a very hard series for me to do. It taught me 2 things. One, it taught me I should probably never play anything that I have played before. I know I'm playing Valkyria Chronicles right now, and that's kind of like a... but I only played a couple missions of Valkyria Chronicles. I have played this game all the way through once before I even touched it again. And there's 2 things wrong with this LP, mainly. One, I was not the person I am now. I didn't even know I could do any voices. I didn't try. I think the only voice I managed to pull out was Schwitt. I didn't even attempt to do any female voices, so Maya and Pearl just sounded like Phoenix. It was a little weird, and same for Edgeworth. Like, they all sounded exactly the same, and I was so nervous. And in the end, I just got really bored because I had already beaten this game before. Like, there was no new ground to cover here. And I just, yeah, I learned never again. Never playing a game I already finished. Unless I was already prepared for the story to, not surprise me, you know. I thought I would have forgotten everything, and that was not the truth. I remembered almost everything about this game, and it made this LP abysmal, along with the fact that I didn't do any voices, which made the characters quite boring. So here's another game I quote-unquote completed. As you guys know, I absolutely love XCOM. Like, I love it. It's probably my favorite strategy RPG just in existence, above Fire Emblem, above everything. And a lot of people don't call it a strategy RPG, they call it a strategy game, but I consider it an RPG because you take soldiers and you level them up and you go through the story, so I'm going to call it an SRPG. And I just got so many hours out of XCOM, like 500, and that was off-screen. This is the first time I played XCOM 2, and it was just when it just released, and I was so excited. In the end of the game, we actually wound up losing, and it didn't go very well. Like, I was playing on a way higher difficulty than I was comfortable with, especially for a blind Let's Play. And, although I did well in the beginning, and I was doing well in every mission, like, combat-wise, when it got down to resource management, I just lost. I lost completely, because I didn't understand what it wanted from me. The resource management was really different from the first XCOM, and that tripped me up so bad, and we just lost the entire campaign. But I still had a lot of fun doing it. And, yeah, it was my first taste of strategy anything on the channel. Nothing so far had any semblance of this kind of tactical grid-based gameplay, or tactical gameplay in any way, and this was the most extreme. Like, people who play SRPGs all the time, and haven't played XCOM, like, why haven't you? What's wrong with you? Like, XCOM is wonderful and brilliant and amazing in almost everything it does. It is so much fun. It's so stressful. And it's something that... And you have so many options is the #1 thing. Like, you have so many ways to deal with so many situations. And that's the #1 reason why playing Fire Emblem sometimes, nowadays, is so hard for me. Is because now that I've tasted things like XCOM, a bit of FF Tactics. I've seen Disgaea clips. Like, Fire Emblem seems so... It seems so bland in comparison. Like, you can't do anything. I'm not saying, like, it's bad or anything, or I won't ever play one again. I'm just saying, like, in comparison, I feel like you have so little options. But, yeah, I loved XCOM as an LP. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this one. And here's one not a whole lot of people know about. This is Dark Souls 3. My LP of Dark Souls 3 that I didn't finish. I got... How far did I want to say I got? I got to the Pontiff Knight area, so I was about, like, 3/4 through the game. And, I really enjoyed it. I really did. Mainly, once again, it was just one of those series where the enjoyment and editing it took to produce the series at the time. At the time, this was a lot less editing than I do now. And, I also produced these videos in 1080p 60 FPS, so they took forever to upload. Especially since I had really slow internet back then. And this series was the most arduous, like, practice of uploading videos. Nowadays, I would probably just... No, you know what? Dark Souls is so beautiful, I probably would still go for 1080p. But, I would probably do a lot more editing and not complain about it as much. Because back then, editing was a very weird thing for me, and I didn't do it at all. Like, the concept didn't really have any appeal except for minor things. Like, oh, I fought this boss, like, 7 times, now I have to just cut it down to the last attempt or something like that. And this was a very fun game because it was a game filled with danger and mystery and awe. And that's something I don't feel like I'd played in any other game before. And on the channel, I played Dark Souls 1 and 2 before this, and then after this I wound up playing Bloodborne on my own and such. But I really did enjoy this. It was very horrifying experience because around every corner there was some new mystery, and a few people say, like, Dark Souls is your best LP ever. And in my mind, I'm like, no, it's not. I don't know what you're on. I mean, maybe you enjoy Dark Souls, but I'm not sure you enjoy the Dark Souls LP. But, yeah, a lot of the time what a lot of people tend to do is, they'll, like, pick a game they really like, and then they'll be like, oh, that one's my favorite LP, like, disregarding how the LP actually went. And, yeah. But I did enjoy Dark Souls 3 for what it was. Dark Souls 3 is now my least favorite Souls game I've ever played. Like, it just doesn't appeal to me. The builds in that game are so one-sided. Like, I did a Dex build. I think it was a Dex Faith build that first run I did. And things were decently challenging. And after I finished this, I went back and I played it again. I didn't actually finish this whole LP. But after I finished the game with this character, I went back and played it again with a strength character, and it was just incomparable. Like, my build felt useless in comparison, and it's just not my favorite Dark Souls game. It's the worst one in my opinion, and I'm not counting Demon Souls, because that's not really fair. So here's another one I absolutely loved, and that's The Witcher 3. So for those of you guys who already... Well, you know, I explained this earlier in The Witcher 2 thing. I love The Witcher. And The Witcher 3 is the only time I have ever seen a book I've read, because I don't read very much. I do a lot now. I'm in a huge binge of reading right now. But, I didn't read a lot of books, and Witcher was one of the things I read the most. So, when you see that translated, all the lore and everything translated to a perfect world representing what The Witcher is, it's amazing. And the gameplay had been changed, it was so variable, there were tons of things to do, every single quest mattered. It was a complete parallel to Dragon Age Inquisition for me, because you play Dragon Age Inquisition, and it's a bunch of fetch quests surrounding a main plot that is somehow even less interesting than a lot of the fetch quests. And in The Witcher 3, every single quest, even some of the fetch ones where it's like, hey, I want you to track down this werewolf, they make sure there's a reason behind it and there's a story behind it, which a lot of games are just too damn lazy to do. But every side quest in The Witcher had this huge moral gray area, and every single one left you thinking, and every single one had a choice that actually mattered. Well, I mean, some of them didn't have choices. Some of them were like, you have to kill the monster, okay? It's murdering children, you have to kill it, there's no choice. But, damn, this game is just a gem. Not a hidden one, but a shining gem. Speaking of hidden gems, here's another game I played under the name of Fury, and god damn is this game awesome! I finished this game actually, aside from the ending secret boss, which is really, really hard. For those of you guys who like, it's weird. It's like a mixture between a character action game like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, and then like a shooter like, or a shmup shooter I think they call them, like Toho or trying to think of another one, Binding of Isaac or things like that. It's just that weird blend in between them, and it works so well. The art is beautiful. The music is so fast-paced and keeps you going. Every part of the game is literally just a boss fight, and every boss fight is so many cool mechanics into it. And for such a small price, like, I felt like I cheated these developers almost. Because although the game was short, it was one of the best things I've ever played. Well, not ever, but one of the best indie games I've ever played, because I don't really dive into the indie genre. Because a lot of indie games go for a, how do I say this? I love pixel art, but there's only so much I can have of, like, the retro pixel art adventure game that so many indie developers go for. And, is this an indie game? I don't really know, actually, now that I think about it. But, like, it had parries. It had parries and shooting and dodging and dashes and launchers and, like, character action. That's why it's one of my favorite genres. So yeah, if you haven't played Fury, I recommend highly picking it up if you're into a character action game. Or you can watch my LP, although the commentary is a little dated and the audio is poorly mixed. But nevertheless, I enjoyed this game very much. So here's the one that started it all. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Man, I didn't expect anything from this. I expected no one to watch this series. And, boy, was I wrong, because let's scroll down. How many? I have 16,000 views on this series, which I think actually the first episode of Radiant Dawn has more. Path of Radiance is a series that was so mysterious for me, because this was at the time I was at my highest Fire Emblem kick. Like, I just discovered how awesome this series truly was, and I was just going through the games, game after game after game, and I was just rushing through them. And I hit Path of Radiance, and because I'd been doing those class guides for a little bit, I'm like, well, I don't want to be doing class guides forever. Because although I really do adore the class guides that I made, I was getting burnt out and bored of them. Those types of videos, like the top 10 videos, or any kind that takes me a while to make, is nice every few months. But, like, month after month, or expecting it, like, every couple of weeks would just burn me out, and I hated it. So I started a Fire Emblem Path of Radiance Let's Play, and as you guys know, this is the one that kind of started it all. This is the one that got any viewers at all, and got me such a huge kick. I don't even know how people found this, I'm gonna be honest. Like, it wasn't a Reddit hit that let people find this. Like, I didn't post it on Reddit and people were like, oh man, this is amazing, and it blew up. No one, like, no large YouTuber saw this and went, oh man, this LP's amazing, I gotta share it with everyone, because that just didn't happen. Like, hands down, I still am not a friend with any Fire Emblem YouTuber there is. Name any Fire Emblem YouTuber you probably know, and they have not heard of me. And if they have, they probably only have poor things to say about me, like, oh, that's that idiot that tried to DM me on Twitter and be friends with me. So, this was just such a welcome surprise. Not only did I absolutely adore the game and all the dialogue it offered, but I really just, I was so thankful and so happy to finally see some comments. I was happy to interact with people, which is something I should probably do more, but nowadays it's a lot harder to, depending on the game I'm playing. I'm gonna try to spend more time in the comment section, though. I do read through the comment section every time. Trust me, I await comments eagerly, and I read them all, but I don't get to respond as much as I used to, and not because there's too many, it's just simply, like, a lot of the comments there's really no response to give, or I address them in the video. And, yeah, I can't be thankful enough to Fire Emblem for starting my channel at all, and I can't be thankful enough to Ike for having such an amazing story. Also, this series is a big turning point for me because this is the first time I even attempted to do any form of voice acting at all. Like, I have never tried to voice act anything before, and I put voice act in quotation marks because I don't consider myself like an able voice actor or anything, but I had to learn my ability to change my voice through this series and through Radiant Dawn, through hours and hours of dialogue, because this was the first time I'd ever attempted it, because in Ace Attorney I didn't. Any other game with dialogue, I just read it flat, and I was so scared to do it. A, because it's weird to make a bunch of weird goddamn voices when you live in a household with other people. And I'm still kind of weirded out by that, just less, because I think they understand what I do now, but back then it was weird, because it was just me talking to myself in my room, and, like, just my voice echoing and all these different things, like, is he crazy? Has he finally snapped and gone nuts? But this is the first series in which I kind of opened up as a person and started varying my commentary, and you guys really enjoyed that, so I'm glad. Another big benefit to this, and I know it's not a benefit right now, but a reason why this series is so successful is because Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance are so hard to acquire, especially Path of Radiance. And at the current time I was doing this LP, no one was really playing this game. And Fire Emblem fans were pretty thirsty, and I know thirsty is probably the wrong term, but they were pretty hyped for Fates, and there was a big influx of players at the moment, and that's why I think the series did so well. Okay, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but hey, these are my Fire Emblem class guides. And these videos are some of my most popular videos I've ever made. I am eternally thankful for all the views I've gotten and all the people that love them, but boy, do I have a love-hate relationship with these videos. Why, you ask? It's mainly just because these videos, although they gave me, and I know the videos are kind of cut off, like you can't see the, although these videos did get me the viewer base I have now, and I am thankful for that, they also created the most difficult transition period in anything I have ever done, ever. And a lot of people don't understand this, is when you're trying to transition from class guides to this, or to LPing, because where I came from was LPing. The class guides are some things I did for fun on the side. They're nothing I ever intended to sustain my channel or anything like that. And they started becoming popular, and I was like, boy, I better make more because people like these. And I just started cranking out one after another, after another, after another. That's when I discovered that editing is hell and you shouldn't do it. Even though now I do way more editing than required to make these guides. By the time I got to the Kitsune guide, I was tired because I was trying to balance 2 LPs with this, and it just created a mess. And I think a lot of people like these guides for different reasons than they think. And you're like, what do you mean for different reasons than I think? And a lot of the info in here was things that people already knew. They were very obvious pieces of information. What a lot of people liked was my commentary on it and the jokes I put in the middle of the guide. Not necessarily skits, but just the kind of editing and my weird sense of humor. Basically, I put in the middle. But I got back around to about the Kitsune guide, which I redid the interface for and everything. I created my own little Photoshop mock-up for every little thing, and it was so much work, and no one really wanted to watch this guide either. Like, no one cared, because Kitsune are awful. Like, I'm not gonna beat around that bush. They were not the best, and no one really cared about it. But, as I got here, I was feeling rushed and forced, and I started to create skits that weren't very entertaining. In fact, I got to the point in this video where most of the video was the skit, and I kept getting comments that are like, I enjoy the skits, but they're getting a little too long. And I saw that, and that's the moment I realized, like, I don't even care about the stats of these characters. I just want to do the skits. Those are fun. So, that's when I decided to stop this, because I absolutely enjoyed the skits, and I decided to kind of integrate that into my Let's Play commentary. And that worked wonderfully, because that is probably what made my first, well, not my first, but my first successful Ace Attorney series, Apollo Justice, so popular. Like, Apollo Justice is the most popular Ace Attorney game I've ever played on the channel, hands down. It is at the top of the list when you go to search for Apollo Justice LPs, which I'm still surprised about. And it looks just like another person's thumbnail. I have such a soft spot for this game because this was the first visual novel I played on the channel that I legitimately enjoyed all the way through, in that I could do so many voices for, and all these characters had so much personality, and like, I love this LP every step of the way. It was something a bit more goofy than I had ever done before, because all the games I play are really hyper serious most of the time, and Ace Attorney is just constant goofs and murder mysteries, and I learned I love that. Like, oh man, I wouldn't have moved on to any other visual novels if I didn't love this LP, and this LP is one of my more popular ones, I have to say. People really did like Apollo Justice. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. And the characters are so charming, and like, I love this game. I do, and I love Apollo, and I hope he gets his other standalone game eventually. Hell, I hope there's even another Ace Attorney game eventually. Like, I feel like Ace Attorney, there's only so many games it can release before it starts to fail on itself. Because, like, you have to come up with enough mysteries. And I know it has a huge fan base. I am one of them. But at the time when I started this LP, I was so worried once again, because it was around this time I started realizing that Ace Attorney had been around on YouTube forever. And I was literally striking iron at its coldest. It was very scary, because when I went to search for Ace Attorney LPs, there were already billions, it seemed like. Like, this was the most pointless endeavor that no one would ever want to watch. But lo and behold, I did have a lot of support, and I thank you for that.
Look how cute Apollo is. He's just so cute.
And here is probably my most successful and my favorite series of all time. And the favoritism isn't just due to the success, but how much I enjoyed the game, and that is Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Not only was it a sequel to a game I really loved, but it's not very often I play a game where I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea anything about Radiant Dawn at all. Like, this series is probably a fan favorite. Fan is a weird word for me still, but a favorite from you guys. And you guys absolutely love this series, and this is the most popular one I've ever done, and it's probably the only reason I even still LP things, is because this series did so well. This series is my absolute favorite, and I don't think that'll change for a while until, like, I do something different. Or until I do something that really strikes a chord with me, because, I don't know, it was something about moving from the first game to the second, and seeing all these characters interacting with each other and growing, and seeing the cameos from the first game, and how many characters there were, and how the world just built itself. This is probably my second favorite Fire Emblem game, only behind Sacred Stones, just because, I don't know, Sacred Stones is a weird soft spot in my heart. But I absolutely love this game, and it showed the potential Fire Emblem really has. And that's why I'm going to go back to my main point. Whatever you do, keep making Fire Emblem games that have sequels. Allow the characters to improve. Allow them to grow. Sequelistic Fire Emblem games have so much potential, because not only can you learn from your mistakes, you can also improve characters, or in Radiant Dawn's case for Astrid, you can ruin them. It's just a thing that Fire Emblem does that I think is so interesting. Like, I haven't even played Fire Emblem 5, and no way in hell do I intend to, but just knowing that's a side story to Fire Emblem 4 is so cool. And, I can't, like, be thankful enough to this series and express my love for it enough. And most of you guys have watched it already, and, well, it's just one of my favorite, and by far, the most popular. So, yeah, there's that. Look! It's Matthew! Plus, I think this series is what kind of solidified Nephanie's place as, like, the channel joke. And she still is, like, although it's less so now, but back then she was like the first true joke of the channel. Just the murder penguin thing caught on so quickly, and people absolutely loved it, and I loved it too. So it was cool having it because it was like the first inside or personal joke on the channel that ever came about, and it's not one that I intended to either. I just noted that her animation in Path of Radiance was that of like a sliding penguin, and when she came back here, I had absolute favoritism towards her, and I think that love for that character started to rub off on everyone. Because although I don't really like say it, as much as I love like big tough buff girls like Rinka, I also have a real soft spot for shy ones like Nephany. So I think that's why I liked her so much. She's just really sweet. And plus, like, the little country accent she had added on to everything. Now she's just kind of confused at what's going on most of the time. She's like, okay, listen,
I'm just a soldier. I can't do this correctly.
Whoops, I just realized I skipped over something very important in this retrospective, and that was Gravity Rush. Oh, I love Gravity Rush. This game is a hidden gem and one of my favorite LPs on the channel. Hands down. I didn't expect anything from this game. I just saw how neat it looked. I saw Kat's design, and I'm like, ah, she looks great. And then I started to play it, and this game was so beautiful and creative, and I fell in love with the characters and the music. And never before had a game with such bland combat and gameplay, I would say at times, hook me so hard. I am still begging, like, I would get down on my hands and knees and beg for Gravity Rush 3. I don't care what that takes. I love the characters in this game. I love the music and absolutely everything about it. I still can't get enough of Kat and Raven in, like, all their adventures. I'm so sad that they're over. The DLC stuff was very interesting, too. I loved roaming around the world as Kat and helping all these, or seeing into people's lives in this weird floating city. I can't express my love enough for this game and this series. I heard the soundtrack actually recently, and I have been like, a lot of the series I play, I finish it and I'll look on Amazon, I'm like, that Kat figure is only $200. Oh man. And everything was so expressive too. Now I'm looking at this, like all the facial expressions, even the fake language, like pulled me in so hard. Please, please make a Gravity Rush 3. I'm begging you. I will buy like 5 copies, I guarantee you, for every system. Put it on the Switch too. That's like success right there. By the way, if a Gravity Rush game ever gets released on the Switch, we are totally, hands down, we are pushing Kat for Smash. You guys can't stop me. Kat for Smash with her own stage in a Sid assist. No, there has to be... No, Raven is like the stage event that happens. Like, she'll come in and start doing her, like, drill attack. And then Sid just comes in with a gun and, like, shoots Luigi or something. And then just runs away. Oh, that'd be amazing. So, here was a series I started immediately after Radiant Dawn. Or, no, this wasn't after Radiant Dawn, was it? Yeah, this was after Radiant Dawn, and yeah, this was supposed to run alongside Berseria. But the problem with this game was, Nier Automata, I expected to be a sleeper hit. It was made by my favorite developers, Platinum Games, who hardly get any recognition for anything, and it was made by Yoko Taro, and I knew how special this game was going to be, but there were 2 problems with this series. A, Nier fans, which barely existed at this time, barely even, like, they didn't want to watch this, hands down. Nier's one of those experiences you want to have for yourself, so those people were out. And B, so many people didn't even know what this was. Like, it's so hard convincing people to watch something when they don't know what it is, especially at this point in time, because people were only interested in Fire Emblem. And this was my most frustrating point on the channel, because it was me trying to pull people away from Fire Emblem in trying to push them towards stuff I like too. Not that I didn't like Fire Emblem or anything like that. It's just I wouldn't want to play it for every single episode of everything. I could never be a singular game YouTuber no matter how much I love that thing. And This series I canceled like 4 episodes in, and I wound up playing it on my own, and I regret that. It's one of my biggest regrets about the channel, like stopping a series, because I love this game through and through. I can't say I understood it on my first playthrough until I watched like a summary, and by first playthrough I mean getting all the endings, of course. But yeah, this series is always a disappointment because I know there's a few people who liked it, but at the time, like in comparison to what Radiant Dawn had done, I would post like a Radiant Dawn video and it would do literally 20 times as well as one of these did. So I posted the first episode, which you expect to be the most popular, and it's not even as popular as like Apollo Justice's last episode. So that's what kind of pushed me away from it. But in the future, I learned to kind of stick to my guns, no matter how much someone dislikes a series, unless it's like abysmal lack of watching. But if I really enjoy something nowadays, I'll stick with it. But this is a series I wound up canceling, and it sucked because it was such a good game too. And then after that, we did the least popular series on the channel, and you're like, what? I thought you just said Nier was unpopular. Well, I mean the actual series is the most unpopular. Miles Edgeworth Investigations. This one is where I learned a very valuable lesson in which, like, I don't want to start a series when I'm sick or not feeling good or feeling off, because I was so tired when I made the first 3 episodes, and I recorded them all at once, too. Like, there were no breaks between recording episodes. And this pushed a lot of people away because my commentary was so bland and I kept apologizing, and it was not good. Plus, I can't say my heart was honestly into it in the beginning. Like, I could not figure out what else to play. So I was like, I guess I'll just play the next Ace Attorney game. And I did, and I kind of had to suffer through this one with people because while I did have, like, a lot of Ace Attorney fans watching this, a lot of other people dropped it really early, including a friend who loved Ace Attorney. I had a friend who used to watch my videos, now he doesn't watch them anymore, which is fine, because, like, I can't hold my friends to watching my videos or anything like that. But, I don't expect them to. Like, everyone has their own lives and such. But, it just kind of showed me, like, yeah, I need to have a strong start to a series. Although I still love this, game. Investigations 1 is not a bad Ace Attorney game in any way. The end is a little frustrating, but overall I enjoyed it. Don't really have much more to say on that. And here we have one of your guys' favorites, and that is Tales of Berseria. So, Berseria is a series that I was so scared to do, mainly because I'm like, time to do this JRPG shit I love, and I don't even know if it's popular with anyone else. And I honestly think I introduced so many people to the Tales series with this game. I think most of the people watching the video were like, I've never played a Tales game before, I've heard of them. Berseria is one of the better LPs on the channel, I'm honestly gonna say. I fell in love with the characters so quickly, and everything they did, their interactions, I loved. The gameplay for the most part, aside from some of the really overly defensive bosses, it took me a while to get a hang of, but every single character in this game, it hit me and I fell in love with it instantly. And you guys seem to also. There's not a character in this game I don't like. So, I don't know. It also just had some fantastic voice acting. Like, it's so much going on here. Oh, I miss it. I really do. And that's why I'm hoping, because I know they're working on another Tales game, which will be an instant channel. Like, people always ask these funny questions, like, so Xeno, are you gonna play 3 houses? And I'm like, does the sun rise every morning? And they look in the sky and they're like, not today. And I'm like, oh god, it's the end times. No, Tales is like a mainstay on the channel now. It's like Tales, Fire Emblem will always come back every time there's a new release. Hopefully, if I'm not, like, burned out or anything. I hope I don't finish Hysteria and then they have, like, a Tales conference. It's like, okay, next Tales game is out now. I'd be like, yeah, this is now one of, like, the mainstay things on the channel. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a long series, and it was the first time I've ever done, like, an RPG where I have to scour the world and do a lot of things. It wound up being 30-something episodes, which is also kind of an appeal, I've noticed, to the way I make videos. I know, like, a select few people are like, you're cutting out too much. I want to see you walk around the area I've already seen 5 times. And it's like, but most people don't. And, I feel like this is where I kind of discovered my balance. I did overdo it with the cutting just a bit in this series. Like, at times, it was like I wasn't even traveling anywhere. It'd just be like one cutscene to the next. And in Suspiria, I improved upon that a bit, but I don't want to make it so you guys have to watch, like, so I don't have to spend like 4 extra episodes because I didn't cut out me fighting a boss for hours, or me walking and backtracking, because, oh boy, these games love backtracking. I love these games. They're so quirky and sweet and emotional, and everything about it is amazing. So after that was Gravity Rush 2, and boy, I love this game just as much as I love the first one. All they had to do with this game was A, bring back the amazing art style, B, bring back the soundtrack, and C, bring a story that I'm interested in. And, you know what, oddly enough, this game reminded me of, as far as, like, a time skip goes? It reminded me of, like, Legend of Korra. I know it's a weird thing to say, but, like, going from the first Gravity Rush to this one, there was an immediate, like, time skip. And it felt like the character was in a completely different place in their life. And the technology of the game had changed entirely. People were harvesting crystals to build these huge machines, and some of the levels were in these huge mechanical cities, and you had this giant world which didn't have any portals in it. You literally would go up and up and up till you hit a really high city, or you'd go down and down and down until you hit like the slums. And it had this really nice feeling of verticality of the world. One thing, the game did have a few flaws though. Like, even though every moment with Cat and Raven and Sid and the characters were charming, the gameplay at times is like, the stealth sections in Gravity Rush 2 are mistakes. I'm just gonna be honest about that. Every single stealth section in the game is a mistake. Because imagine trying to put a stealth section in a game with no stealth indicators and you can fly. So literally, you will fly around and you'll be like, I'm completely fine. And then out of nowhere, you'll get spotted. It's the most aggravating thing because there's no way to tell when something's gonna spot you. And they stuck this mechanic all over the game. And it's the worst one in there. But honestly, this game did explain a lot about Gravity Rush 1 and basically filled in most of the plot holes. Not really plot holes, but questions I had. They fill in questions about Cat's past and all those things. It's just so interesting to see. I know I say interesting a lot, but like, I love this game. And once again, I would get down on my hands and knees and like, give people money to make Gravity Rush 3. Practically, like, they're like, I made a $1,000 special edition for Gravity Rush. I'd be like, here you go. I took out a loan on my house. Just make the game. So here's a series I'm still unsure if you guys even liked. Because this had so much mixed reception in it about everything. But Danganronpa V3 is a game I personally love playing through. And it was frustrating at first because I was like, oh, I'm so excited for this game. And then as soon as I started talking about it, and I guaranteed you guys that was going to be the next LP, the publishers for the game, I think it was the publishers, put a streaming LP ban and said anyone who streamed past the first chapter of the game or past the prologue? Was the prologue of the game? Yeah, was going to get like copyright strikes and all this. And that was a bummer, and so I just kind of had to sit there and go, oh, that sucks. We may not be able to play this, so I waited a little bit, and my patience did pay off, because eventually they lifted the ban, but it was still a weird ban in the first place, because, like, more known Danganronpa YouTubers were getting free copies early, but they were also still under the ban, and they had no idea what was going on either. But eventually they released it, and we did this series, and this was one of my hardest series to start, but one of the most enjoyable I've ever done. And it was so hard to start, because a lot of people, what they did is, before the game came out, they went somewhere and watched, like, a playthrough of it in Japanese, or, like, a playthrough someone translated, or they watched through one that had no commentary, and then they'd come over here and be like, I don't want to watch you go through all this boring shit again. Or you have people that watched it and no one died for like 5 episodes, and they start getting really impatient. And they're like, well, no one's dying. I don't see the appeal here. I'm like, trust me, someone will die soon enough. Just stay. It gets interesting. And it was weird because it was like I had to basically beg people and reassure them that this game was going to be interesting. Because the fan base I had, I don't think, was a group of people who loved Danganronpa. And I introduced it to a lot of people, and a lot of people hadn't played the first or second game. So it was really awkward because I was jumping in on the third game in the series. There are already a bunch of channels that have like a bunch of history with it, so I was sure that people were just going to go watch those instead. I had people that were just like, whoa, this is a little too much for me. A little too violent. I was like, yeah, that can be true. But I love this game. It has so much weird shit in it, and it does everything that I love. Like, it takes jumps and leaps and bounds, and just like, it embraces what it is so well. It takes the goofy and the odd and pushes the story in a direction no one would expect. Even I didn't expect it. I love the characters in this game. They kind of help me expand my vocal range as far as voices. Like, you have Samugi, who's so goddamn high-pitched that I have to talk like this, it hurts my throat. Or then you have Ryoma, who can just sit around and play tennis and talk about depression for 5 hours. There were so many, like, fun voices that came out of this, and so many fun personal jokes. And just like, oh, I love this series. But if I do have to say so myself, at the end, I was kind of frustrated, and it was like one of the most frustrating times I've ever had with the comment section about something. And that's because I hit the end of the series, and I was so happy. I was so happy it was done. I was so happy with the ending it gave. It was something I didn't expect with the theming it did, but I didn't understand the ending as it was intended, because trust me, the ending in this game is a shit show, and it's confusing. And when I say shit show, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, like, what? But a lot of people started getting really mad at me and started saying my least favorite thing. I hate it when people say this. I absolutely loathe it. And people will go down in the comment section, they're like, you really need to pay more attention. Like, it's super obvious what happened here. And, like, I hate this comment the most out of anything I've ever gotten is, you need to pay more attention, because I do have ADHD, first of all, so paying attention isn't exactly my strong suit. And when people go like, you just need to pay more attention to what's going on, it's like, no, I have been staring at a wall all 90 hours I have been playing this game. I don't know, but that was really upsetting, and I got like 7 of those same comments from different people on that same day, and it made that finale really frustrating to me. It made it like a really stressful time. But overall, aside from that, I really enjoyed the series. I still haven't done the last stream. I want to eventually. Even if it's hyper irrelevant, I want to get through the rest of the free time events. Okay, and here's the last one we're going to look at, which is Zone of the Enders, because it's the last thing that happened before before the current series. I know there was Edgeworth Investigations 2, but I had to cancel that, and I really want to go back to it someday, just I couldn't do those 5 hours over again. But anyway, Zone of the Enders was a fun little one. It has less views than almost any series I've ever done. Somehow more than Edgeworth Investigations. Somehow. But Zone of the Enders 1 and 2 were little fun games from my childhood that I hadn't really finished or really touched past the point where I was supposed to, because I remember playing a demo of 1, and I remember it being really weird to play, and I don't think I ever wound up picking up the full game, but some of the fights in Zone of the Enders and some of those silly moments were just so worth it. Especially, like, Zone of the Enders 1 is hard to get through. I'm gonna be honest. It's really hard to get through. There's a lot of monotony of the characters going, now you need to go take down the shields, but we can't do that. You have to get the Raptor module to do that, but we can't get the Raptor module because we can't get past the other thing, so you have to go collect this part of the module, and it just gets so fetch questy. Some of the fights here, I know I'm showing off like the final boss, but like a lot of people don't really care about it. But like some of the fights in this game get nuts in the end, like character action at its best, and people hardly appreciate that anymore. How do I say this? Fights where people are teleporting all over the place and doing like jump cancels and like the coolest shit ever, people just don't really care for anymore, which is sad to me, because that's what Devil May Cry is all about. That's what Bayonetta is all about. It's all about style, and very few people are interested in that kind of thing anymore. So that's why, well, I was literally yelling. There's an upgrade you get in Zone of the Enders 2, that I'm not going to show you guys because it's like huge spoiler, but that basically changes how you play the game entirely. And like, I love Zone of the Enders too. It was so much fun. And a few little personal jokes are going to come from that are probably never going to come up again on the channel ever. Like the goddamn Ada X Leo ship. That was a weird one. Oh, I also forgot. We played Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. And that was a weird mini LP that was literally 2 parts. The game was only an hour and 12 minutes long, and it didn't have any cutting like I normally do. So, I think you guys enjoyed that little mini... No, actually it did have cutting. Like, every time I died, I had to make sure, at least on bosses, that it cut back to me fighting the boss on the next attempt. But I did enjoy this game. I do like classic Metroidvania games, although this game isn't really Metroidvania. It's like Castlevania 2 or 3. Mainly. It had the cool character switching mechanic, and I had a lot of fun with it. Don't really have much to say about it beyond that, but like, maybe people want to see me play the actual Bloodstained game when it comes out. I don't know. I didn't really see any comments about that. I don't know why I keep skipping LPs. Okay, this is a controversial one. This is one of the most controversial series I have ever done. Like, hands down, it was the most stressful, the most controversial with the comment section especially. And in the end, I think people still enjoyed my view on it. This is by far my least favorite Fire Emblem game ever made. Hands down. I know, like, people are like, what? You dislike it that much? And honestly, yes. Because the problem is, it would be a game like Shadow Dragon, because that game is so boring to play and the dialogue is awful. But the thing with Shadow Dragon is I kind of have to give it the same kind of pass, because it was A, made before this, B, made on a lower power console, C, it wasn't as expressive as this one as trying to redo a story, and you could tell that it was just kind of trying to add more to what little was already there, as where this one, which I appreciate, tried to take an already existing story and expand upon it by adding characters, adding personalities that weren't even there, and basically they had to make their whole, like, their own whole story. And the first half of the game, I was having a lot of fun. The combat was really fast. The animations were amazing. The story was shaping up to be something interesting. The voice acting was phenomenal. Actually, phenomenal is probably a tier above what I want to say. It's great. Voice acting's great, and I hope voice acting comes back to Fire Emblem. It's always something weird when I hear people go like, you shouldn't add voice acting to this game, it ruins my imagination. It's like, well, then just turn off the audio, like the voice audio. It's not that hard, just do it. I don't understand the complaint. But about after like the halfway mark in this game started becoming unbearable to me. For several reasons. One, the gameplay, the way that people chase you around the map. It's just like, ugh, it was the worst. Like, I'd leave somewhere and then turn 1 before my character could move, they would die. Like, before I would get my turn, they would get their turn and I would die. I would want to go from, like, a village to another village, and I'd have to fight, like, 7 random battles in between there at times. And it was so frustrating at that. And then not to mention the story, which I'm not going to get into, but I have gotten some of the nastiest comments on my entire channel out of this. Like, I remember one specific comment where someone gave me, like, a paragraph-long essay on about how I've been alone forever and I don't understand true love, and I will never understand true love like Almond Celica or something. And I couldn't help but laugh at that for, like, 15 minutes, because it was like... But no, people were, like, divisive in this comment section. It wasn't particularly towards me, it was towards each other. Like, you had the people that absolutely loved Shadows of Valentia, and then you had the people who were just on the hate train that had to show everyone how bad it is. And then you had people like, no, it's really good, and it's like, no, it's awful. And then they went to war, and then 3 Houses was made. But no, this game was not what I thought it was going to be, and I don't regret playing it at all. Like, it wasn't that bad. But out of anything I've ever played, I have to say this is probably my least favorite LP I've ever done. Because most LPs, even if I get bored in the middle, there's something I can look forward to. Like Edgeworth, I can look forward to the big conclusion of the villain, or something like that. But with Fire Emblem Echoes, I had zero things to look forward to. The bosses were just annoying and stupid looking. The cutscenes were kind of pointless at times. The plot twists were just not even that interesting and kind of ridiculous and hard to believe. All in all, though, I think it's still a decent Fire Emblem game. Just aside from the few things it did, like combat arts that I want to see come back, which do come back in Three Houses, as we've seen in the trailer, I really didn't enjoy this game too much. So here I just want to take a quick look at some of the one-time videos I've done this year too. I did the Fire Emblem Simulator, which is one of my most popular videos. And people always ask for another one. And I did make another one, but it's not just Fire Emblem, and people somehow never see that. But the reason I haven't made more of these, even though people really like them, is because, like, if you've seen one of these, you've kind of seen them all. Like, it doesn't really change. And this website hasn't updated this, little browser game in so long. Nothing ever changes on it. And plus, every time I make one of these videos, there's always that one person that's like, oh, you really don't know anything about the Hunger Games. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, at the beginning of the video, I said I have never watched the Hunger Games. What do you expect? But I still enjoyed making this video. It's just a fun idea I came up with, and people really loved it. And I guess a lot of other people started doing it too after I did, because apparently there's a lot of them now. So this is back when I started trying to record the first Ace Attorney LP. I don't know how so few people have found this, but I was playing with FaceRig with a few friends, which is like a webcam thing that you use to track your face, and it makes a bunch of funny things. And I left FaceRig on in the background, and NVIDIA, back then I used NVIDIA GeForce, which was in beta, and it glitched and didn't show Ace Attorney, but showed my desktop. So it showed what was going on in that little face cam, and it was a whole blooper highlight reel of all the faces I make while I'm playing. And it's so funny, because as I tell people, like, a lot of people say they have resting bitch face, as they say it, but I actually do. That is why her eyes are so half closed all the time. Is because that is what my face looks like. Not really, like, I'm not quite anime girl quite yet, but, like, that's the expression I make when I'm playing things. And that's why people always ask, like, won't you do a face cam? It's just like, what, you just want to see me stare annoyingly at you? And every time I even look somewhere else, it's because I get distracted by something around my computer. But boy, this video was a bit of fun to record. And then we have some of my Xenoverse videos, which you guys don't really seem to... It's hard to tell if you guys like them or not. Because, they're the cheesiest things I've ever made. They're so stupid, but people tend to like them, so... every once in a while I get in a mood to make one, and you guys seem to have very positive reception, even if they're, like, little 4-minute things that I can barely fit into my schedule to make, but... You guys always seem to really love them, so I make them whenever I get, like, a creative feeling that I have to take a few characters and mess with their lives. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. This is just a little retrospective as to what we've done so far. I wanted to kind of show you guys, once again, behind the curtain, and, like, what I truly think of every LP I've ever done. Especially now that I've sat on it with time. There are LPs I hated when I recorded them, and now I look back on them and I'm so glad I finished them. There are LPs I loved when I recorded them, and now I look back on it and go, wow, that game was shit! But, yeah, I hope you guys liked this little look into the background of my channel and kind of the journey up here. And, yeah, see you guys in the next video. Right now.